We're going to call the Development Review Board meeting for September 25th to order. First is roll call, all members present minus Julie Nicole. She's not on Zoom, right?
No, sir.
No, okay. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Gonna open our first public hearing for Okemo Limited Liability LLC in regards to 21 Prospect Street. It's gonna be a reconsideration of conditions. Rose is gonna read us.
Okay. This is application number 495-25-CU, amendment number 1. The applicant is Okemo Limited Liability Company. The project description is a motion to reconsider conditions set forth in the decision 495-25-CU, dated July 26, 2023. The hearing date is September 25th, 2023, and it was not 6 o'clock. It was 5, whatever the time is. The public posting was the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin boards, and the town website. And that was on September 1st, 2023. It was posted in the Rutland Herald on September 9th, 2023. The abutting property owners were notified on September 1st, 2023. And I am not sure who is here for the property owners.
So we're gonna swear some people in who's ever gonna speak for the applicant and any other people who wish to speak or during this hearing. If you can raise your right hand and I'll administer the oath. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Okay. So who's gonna talk to us from the applicant?
Just want to talk a little bit in regards to the permit application that you granted us for Prospect Street. In the condition, it talked about that it was correctly stated that we were to have no more than 42 people in the building. However, further along in the permit, it talked about only 2 people per bedroom. So there seemed to be a conflict there. The state fire marshal had given us permission for 42 as an occupancy for that building. I did go down and speak with Rose about this after we received the permit. She did say that it was an error, and I'm glad you're here tonight, Rose, so maybe you can chat a little bit about what that is, so thank you.
Yeah, that was a typo in the decision, and so clearly that will not be a problem to fix. You know, it's up to the board, but it was my mistake when I was writing the decision.
Typo, we'll get that corrected.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so that will read 42, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
To be consistent. Okay, thank you so much. The second one I just wanted to talk about were the dumpster stipulation that was in there. I think it's fine, the 2 dumpster minimums per week, but I was thinking from an efficiency standpoint that it may be good from December through the end of March, when usually we're occupying that dwelling. After that, that's kind of hit or miss because we really haven't occupied that space this summer. So there really isn't a lot of trash to remove if there's one that runs throughout the year. We do go to inspect the property on a regular basis in case somebody did leave some trash there, but there isn't anybody really staying there during those periods of time. So this summer. Right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there at the end. Is our biggest concerns that we saw was that it's not just, it's your choice to operate in just a short period of time. And I believe if you look back at the minutes, you had mentioned twice a week. And so that's where that number had come from.
Okay.
We might be willing to entertain potentially if you're going to operate the building. If you're not going to operate the building, then obviously there's no trash. I feel that there's some concerns that with the language when the dumpster's full, that potentially could lead to, oh, we threw some bags in, but it's not full, so it's not going to get picked up. Maybe it leads to animals and potential some other nuisance smells.
Sure, makes perfect sense. Is there any way we can change that language somehow so we can kind of meet somewhere in the middle here? So, we're more than glad we have a team that obviously oversees our housing. They check them on a regular basis. We can check them, our teams at Okemo can check the, trash on a regular basis during the summertime if we do have occupancy there.
So for me, we try to come up with something that it's checked twice a week, maybe.
Sure.
And emptied as required. Something along those lines.
Yeah, that would be great.
And there's a suggestion in your letter that says that Okemo will accept a condition that residents not stack trash outside the dumpster or outside the dumpster enclosure. You can have that.
Yep, absolutely.
What's your next concern?
Okay, and just the last one was really about the transportation and vehicles moving and turning around in the parking area or shining lights into neighbors' windows. We have done all the parking that you requested under the conditional use permit. That's in now. I don't think it'll be much of a problem, but it seems to be, I can never predict if an employee has a car there and backs out. There are 3 parking places on the right-hand side as you're facing the house that we added that may back out and may shine into the lights next door in a house, unintentionally, but it's just from a safety standpoint. And I wouldn't want anybody turning out their lights at night when they were backing out of a driveway, on Prospect Street. So
I believe we can try to clarify the language. We were mostly talking about the buses.
Okay.
Is that the buses which we're planning to turn around, we're going to, as we had discussed in the meeting, that they were going to back into the Prospect Street property and then they would drive back out, and that would prohibit the bus. That was where the early morning.
the early morning runs?
That the early morning run was really where the concern had been discussed. Is that either way, they'd either have to pull into the property or they could back into your entrance, being that they were going to, unless it's too bad of a snowstorm, as we had discussed, they're going to exit the same way.
Yep.
Or potentially exit that way, and or that they would be pulling up just alongside the property. So either one of those. So that was really, if the weather was too bad, would be the only time that it was related to the bus.
Okay.
We can try to change that language to only applies to the bus.
Add the bus
Would that
in.
be acceptable?
Yeah, that's acceptable. Because
Okay.
I think, with the new parking that we put in up there, I don't think the bus will have any problem because it can go to the back of the new lot.
Yep.
Turn around there and then come out, and there are no houses there at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay? And that's all I had.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to,
Make a motion to close the hearing.
and we got a second. Any discussion? Is that someone's hand? Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Get us.
Next, we're going to open a public hearing for Shaw's Supermarket. Rose, you want to read that off for us?
Actually, I don't have the Shaw's one.
Okay. Do you have that one, Jared? By any chance?
I don't know. Just got the letter from them.
Okay. I'll read this one. So as application 23110-FHR for the property location 213 Main Street, we received a letter from the applicant that they wish to recess the hearing until the October meeting. So I will entertain a motion to recess.
I'll make a motion to recess till October meeting.
Okay, second?
I will second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Those opposed? We're going to open the next public hearing, which is for Darkside Snowboards Okemo. You want to take us off, Reed and Rose?
Yep. This is application 85-105-CU, Amendment 18 for Darkside Snowboards Okemo. The property owner of the plaza is Okemo Marketplace Incorporated. The Darkside Snowboards Okemo would like to expand into the gym area, creating a larger retail space. So this is a change in use. They also are recovering from some flood damage that they experienced on July 10th, 2023. The public posting was in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin boards, and also the town website on September 6th. They were posted in the Vermont Journal on September 6th, and abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. I'm not sure who's here to represent them.
So someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant or anyone who else would like to speak on behalf of this hearing, we're going to swear you in. You want to raise your right hand, repeat after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the case under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do.
I do.
Okay. You just state your name and...
Bill Langlands.
Thanks. Tell us about what you want to do.
Right now we're at 4 walls in cement. So I'm just, I want to put new insulation in, new sheetrock. I've re-put all new electric in because that had to be ripped out for the flood. The remediation people took the wall down that was in between the 2 stores, which is just 2x4s. And so it's just an open space. So I just want to go in and redo it.
So the biggest concern right now is we don't have a letter from John Broker Campbell. And trying to see here, what else was the other things that were on our list here? Which is on the flood side. You want to talk about the expansion portion?
Like I said, the wall in between the 2 stores is down.
Yep.
So it's instead of 2,800 square feet, it's 4,800 square feet.
Okay. So I'll read it off from my cheat sheet here. Yep. But in order to get a letter of comment from John Broker Campbell, the following items are required: site plan, base flood elevation, first floor elevation, electrical and mechanical location and elevation, receipts for damage, material estimates, improvement cost estimates, labor cost receipts.
Okay.
And until we have that letter from John Broker Campbell, we're unable to issue a decision.
And who is he?
He's from the ANR, Agency of Natural Resources. He does the floodway management.
Okay.
We can have the planning office assist you if you have further questions on how to provide those. All these packets and information have been sent to him, to the best of my knowledge.
So basically, this is kind of a twofold situation where the owner of Okemo Marketplace is going to stand before you at a future date and explain how all of this fits into him and all the rest of his tenants.
Okay.
So this is basically just a change of use.
Okay, so this is not the flood hazard.
This is not the flood hazard review.
So disregard that. So does the board have any questions in regards just to the change of use portion? Okay. You guys going to change anything, any new doors, windows?
Well, I'm replacing the front door because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So that's on order.
Okay.
Replacing the heating system because that got destroyed. And we said replacing the insulation, sheetrock, and then we're just going to put fixtures in there, you know,
Okay.
retail fixtures.
Are you familiar with the FEMA packet with the acceptable materials?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to use the acceptable materials?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you. There was a drawing in there.
No, I did one. I did it. It's the box for it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, yeah.
Hopefully they pay too much for it.
Okay, we're gonna open the next public hearing for Delfoilo Real Estate LLP, 80 Brew, and we're gonna have Rose start us off.
Okay, this is application number 464-18-flood hazard review, amendment number 1. And this is applicant Lisa Del Tufo. Is that right? And property owner is Del Tufo Real Estate LLC. The application for reconstruction of interior units 106 and 107 due to the flood damage. And I believe that is 80 Brew. And the application was posted in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin boards, and the town website on September 6th, Vermont Journal newspaper on September 6th, and the abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. And I believe there is somebody here to represent the application.
All those who are going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant or anyone else who's going to speak on this hearing, please raise your right hand and repeat the oath after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Okay, who's here to talk to us from Delphi Real Estate? Or their... Okay, we just have you speak up to the mic for us. You just repeat your name again and go ahead.
David Del Tufo.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
We're looking just to put our space back together. No interior changes, just some framing of walls that were torn down, electrical, heat, and insulation, sheetrock.
So on here, we've got, just for the record, your units 106 and 107?
Just pretty much 106. 107 was in the same condition it was after the cleanup of Irene.
Okay, so we've got a substantial damage report here that labels you guys at 100%. So when you're above the 50% threshold, that enacts different regulations and rules that require some guidance, particularly from John Broker Campbell's, where we're going to be looking for a letter, and how he's going to apply for your space with those characteristics. And I'll read from my sheet here. So in order to get obtain a letter of comment from John Broker Campbell for a flood hazard review, the following items are required. Professional engineer report, site plan showing the following: base flood elevation, first floor elevation, electrical and mechanical location and elevation, receipts showing damage costs, material estimate receipts, improvement costs, and labor cost estimates. Until we get the variable from John Broker Campbell, we're unable to issue that. on a flood hazard review.
Right. How do we get in touch with John
So the information
to make this get together and make it happen?
So the information that you provided to us was sent to him. Jared can maybe speak a little bit more on how they can help you try to contact him. I know that the information has been made available prior to this, and so that
So he has all the information.
that was provided in our documentation. So in here, we just haven't been issued his letter. I don't know what the status of that is. Until we have that letter, that's the variable that we cannot control, because that's going to be the state's guidance.
Any kind of estimated timeline on that?
Basically, the sooner you get us things, those figures and those reports, the faster things happen. Now, there is a means to move forward and start your repair prior to being issued the permit, but you do have to make sure that you're using all of the flood damage required materials. There's a pamphlet on the front row chair there for you. And also follow our Article 6 guidelines from the Ludlow Village zoning regulations. Because that it's basically a historic building, you can't elevate the building. So it would be mostly a letter from John Broker and these materials, so that the next time you come and you can provide all that documentation, they can just go ahead and issue the permit.
Right. You said we could start with renovation
Yes, you
before
can.
we
Yes,
are
you
issued a
can.
permit?
In good faith, as long as you're doing everything that's required of you, afterwards,
Right.
then you can.
Okay.
So we may end up just recessing this for another month. Sometimes people are taking several months to get all the documentation together, so.
Okay. Right. But we can get started, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
And then I'll put you in touch with him. I'll give you his number. His number's downstairs in my office. I should probably know it by heart by now, but a lot of information going on right now. So yeah, I'll help you get in touch with him.
Okay. All right, perfect.
So where that comes into is that in good faith, the state has passed regulation where you can start your repairs before the permit's issued. However, you will be expected to show proof that you use the correct material. And if you choose not to use correct material, that would then put you in violation.
Okay.
Kind of straightforward, right?
Yeah.
We trust people to do the right thing. If you have any questions, if you're not aware of the packet, we can get you that packet with the approved materials.
Great.
So the other question, does the board have any other comments, questions in regards to that section? Okay. The other question that was brought forth, there was some evidence submitted in regards to potential noise considerations and the effects that potential rebuilds might have to help mitigate potential issues that you guys have been facing with abutters. Do you want to make any comments to that?
Well, we were working on a solution throughout last year, and we were coming up with some answers. In the meantime, the group that we were working with went after our liquor license, which is a little disingenuous for me. But so we're still looking at possible solutions. The ceiling in our space was not affected by the flood. At this point, I think even the building is underinsured, so there's a lot of things that won't be covered. So the money to even put the place back together is going to be shortfall. But we're still interested in working out a solution for to make the noise acceptable for all parties.
Okay. Are you familiar with the RSG report that was submitted?
The engineer that the mill hired? Yeah.
Are you familiar with that report?
Sure.
Okay. Are those options talked about in there? It sounds like you guys have not come to a final decision amongst yourselves.
No, we were working on it and then the flood happened.
Okay. Of those options, Is there one that you view that would be offhand more acceptable to you than the others? I believe there's 4 choices or 5 choices.
Yeah, I think it's option 2.
Is the one you're after?
And this is where we kind of left off, where you have option 3, which is double layered sheetrock, 8 foot off or less than off of our floor elevation. And that would be option 3. Option 2 is a 2-inch mineral fiberglass board with a vinyl, soundproofing vinyl laminated to that board. And that's first the rubber vinyl would be applied to the ceiling. Then the 2-inch board with laminated to that same vinyl, soundproofing vinyl. That's option 2. So if option 2 isn't the best solution, but anything that's on that report will help the noise levels. But option 3 is just not acceptable for us. It would change the whole look of the bar, and that wouldn't be in our interest. So I was going to suggest is combining option 2 and option 3. Option 3, where possible, above, high enough where it doesn't affect the aesthetics of the bar, and option 2, where you can't do option 3. But really hasn't been discussed that much because then the flood happened.
Do you guys still think you're going to make potential progress in your outside negotiations of what would be acceptable between the 2 parties for those potential options?
I guess it's we'd have to do some tests on the sound or from the expert, combining the 2.
Take some comments, or anyone from the board have any questions in regard to the noise portion?
What's on the ceiling now?
Just the 2-inch boards from the framing of the building, post and beam.
Like this picture?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's see if thank you, and we'll see if there's some comments from the public. I know there's a few other people that raised their hands that they wanted to speak.
Sure.
We'll probably come back to you with some questions.
Okay.
So anyone from that had been sworn in have questions, comments? Go ahead.
My name is Rich Kowalski. I'm in unit 206, right above the bar there. Just here, not opposing the bar at all or anything of that sort, or its reconstruction, just asking for the board to kind of take the comments from a couple of neighbors, the chief of police that submitted a letter in just requiring some sort of soundproofing to be put in. I sent in just kind of a video from within the unit on kind of what the noise looks like right up above us during a given night. That video was taken back in December, and a noise level kind of associated with that. And we brought our concerns to the board of the building. They were kind enough to hire an engineer to kind of verify some of this, the noise and kind of where it's coming from, and offer some solutions. So from the report, it can kind of be seen that, in that period, that noise continued and continued to be a problem. The engineer on hand had made a few recommendations, of which the report that you have there, virtually the situation that we have is that there is no insulation between the bar area and the base floor. And it was the engineer's recommendation, in order to achieve a level that is, I guess, of a normal sound level, he had recommended something above the 60 level, which is option either 3 or 4. So what we're looking for is for the board to consider just imposing at least some sort of part of the rebuild that that there be some soundproofing put into the ceiling to help mitigate that noise to a level that can't be heard up above, and just to just read over the report and just take the engineer's recommendations at hand and impose either option 3.1 or 3.4, which achieves that STC level or the sound transmission class of 66 or 63.
Thank you.
That's all. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Wendy Wachtel, and I have unit 204, so I'm above the bar and next door to Rich. And really, we support the bar. We're happy to have them, but this is the best time ever for them to go ahead and put in some type of a sound mitigation plan. If they're dealing with 100% loss, then it's a great time to go ahead and not infringe on other businesses, because it's a business for us. We rent that unit out. And so when we're having to deal with unhappy customers and bad reviews and give financial refunds back to people because of the noise, it impacts our business. And we were there first. So we just would like to have a way for everybody to be able to do business and work together. But I think it would be more beneficial if it had a little weight from the planning committee on requiring some type of a mitigation program agreed upon before moving forward, and then we all can move forward together.
Thank you. Is there any other public?
Good evening, Eric Alden. I'm the president of the board at the mill. The matter in front of you, the noise issue is a serious issue, but it's an internal issue that we've been working through with all parties. The application in front of you is not relevant to that issue at all. So I would ask this board, although I agree with what Wendy just said, it's a great time for them to take some steps to do some mitigation. That's not what in front of you. That's not part of the application or the permit that they've asked for. They're asking to rebuild, to reframe, so that we can replace the electric and all the utilities that need to be done in there. I wouldn't want that application to be blindsided by an internal matter, and it's an internal matter. If they decide and we decide on a solution, that'll come forth in a separate permit in front of you guys if we're going to be changing any materials. But that's not what's on that permit. So I'd ask that it not be considered as part of your decision on them being able to rebuild. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments to make? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, at the moment we are at almost 100% loss. However, the ceiling is fine. It's the one thing in there we don't need to touch. We are internally working on this soundproofing issue. We've been working towards it, but at the moment, like Dave said, the mill's underinsured, and we don't even know if we're going to have all the money to put the place back together without coming out of pocket. So this is essentially, kicking us lower down, and it would put all of the, we'd put everything on us. If the stipulation was attached to our permit, well, if we're dealing with it internally at the mill, it becomes an issue that, 5 or 6 units now are taken care of together.
I'd ask that you guys try to negotiate that outside of the DRB. Thanks. While we wait for the letter from John Broker Campbell, I'll entertain a motion to recess the hearing till the October meeting.
I'll make a motion, we recess until October.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. How much water came into the building? How high did it get?
99 inches.
So was that, I remember we were in there when it was Tuckernuck Shaw's when Irene happened. Was it really? So it was just right below that. So, yeah. Yeah. 100%, totally feel for you guys. I mean, I know this has got to be very frustrating and difficult, and dealing with all this stuff on top of that has to be just so obviously hopefully whatever happens, it happens and we end up in your favor, so.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. We're going to open the next public hearing. Eric Alden, another one in the middle. Rose, if you want to go ahead, get us started.
Okay, this is number 80-50-CU, amendment number 2-F, flood hazard review. The applicant is Eric Alden, and he is also the property owner. This is project description is the application for reconstruction of interior office units and lobby due to flood damage from July 10th, 2023. This was posted in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin boards, and the town website, September 6th. Newspaper was the Vermont Journal on September 6th, and abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. And I do believe Eric Alden is here tonight to represent himself.
Anyone who's here to speak on behalf of either the applicant or anyone else who'd like to speak on behalf of this case, please, this hearing, please raise your right hand, repeat the oath after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Tell us about your project.
All right, like everyone else in town, what we're trying to do is just get started. Replacing some framing, interior doors, interior windows, flooring, to prep for the mechanicals, which will be, like the bar, will be on a separate permit. So the electrical permit will be a separate permit. The HVAC, the plumbing will all be on a separate permit. So this permit here in front of you, I don't believe it's a flood hazard review, but I think it's just an amendment. What we're trying to do is simply start the process of replacing damaged framing and interior doors, windows. Nothing structural. There's no plumbing on this permit. There's no electrical on this permit. It's simply prep work for those other permits.
So we got you down here for flood hazard review. And that's where it's going to come in. I know it's going to be similar to what was stated previously, but just to get it on the record here is that you can't start start your reconstruction, but we're going to need that letter from John Broker Campbell. And in order to acquire that, you're going to need professional engineering report showing site plan, base flood elevation, first floor elevation, electrical and mechanical location and elevation if applicable, receipts showing damage costs, material estimates, receipts, improvement cost receipts, labor cost receipts.
Respectfully, it's my understanding that the work that is being done over there does not trigger those requirements. The FEMA regulation is 50% substantial damage. The building has been assessed by the town and by Ted Reeves that it did not sustain substantial damage. So I'm confused on that piece of it. Maybe they still issue the letter that says we don't have to do that, if that's what you're asking, but it's been determined. Planning office has same understanding, I believe. They can speak on it, but the building was assessed and it was determined not to have substantial damage.
So even without substantial damage, you do have to go through a couple of hoops, especially with John Broker Campbell, because it is in the flood zone. Particularly the floodway is touching a portion of the building, which triggers it, unfortunately.
Triggers what?
These regulations and having a letter for John Broker Campbell, just like any other building in the floodway or floodplain.
The letter that comes, what does that letter say?
That provides their guidance. Usually in your case, because you're a historic building, your building can't be lifted. It's probably going to have a materials requirement. That's the variable that we cannot issue a permit with those variables.
So John Booker Campbell would be the one to determine that.
And he's basically, we can provide you with the FEMA document. You probably
I've read it.
is,
I've
and
read
basically,
every page of it, yeah.
he may or may not put any other stipulations from the state level.
Okay.
And basically, under any flood hazard review, even if it's separate of the flood, would still require that letter.
Okay, just so I understand the process, same goes for the bar because they're in the same situation. It's been determined by outside counsel that the town brought in that this particular building has not sustained substantial damage. That information, I assume, goes to John, and he writes a letter to that effect. How does that work?
Correct. So in his requirements, this is from John. In order to receive a John Broker Campbell comment letter, the things that are required are, and he lists as I previously read, and that those are set forth for all flood hazard reviews for any building that would be in there. The 50% threshold regards the mitigation that sets those separate like regulations aside. When you meet that threshold, then that brings in extra.
So once the assessment has been made that we don't meet those extra waterproofing requirements, how does that information get to John? Do we get that from the zoning office and send it to him?
That is correct. Once all the required information that John requires, he gets sent everything you give us, and then we wait for that letter.
Okay. Those are, sorry.
So I just want to add, this also pertains to any improvements. If there was no flood at all, due to the fact that the building is located in a floodway, any improvements trigger a letter from John Broker Campbell.
Understood. Yeah.
And the requirements.
Improvements would be considered over and above what was there or replacing what was there?
Over and above what was there.
Okay, so if there was framed walls going back in the same spot, sheetrock going back in the same spot, that wouldn't be considered improvements?
That would not be an improvement.
No,
That'd
because you're
be a
rebuilding it the
repair.
way it was, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'll circle back to the planning office. Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions in regards to this one? And is there any public comments from anyone that had been sworn in? I entertain a motion to recess this hearing until October.
I'll make a motion to recess the hearing until October.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. That one's complete.
I will recuse myself from the next hearing.
And we're going to open up the next public hearing. Alan and Catherine Couch, and Rose is going to start us off.
Good evening. Sorry.
Hold on.
I'm just so nervous. I'll let you know.
Oh, you're muted, Rose.
I knew that. This is application number 039-92, flood hazard review. This is for Catherine and Alan Couch. And this is to rebuild and possibly elevate their home above base flood elevation. This was posted in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin board, and the town website on September 6th. This was in the Vermont Journal on September 6th, and abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. And it looks like Alan and Catherine are both here tonight.
Those here to speak on either the applicant or on behalf of the applicant or other people, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the case under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Okay. Tell us about your project.
We were affected by the flood of July 10th. The water filled up our basement and came into the first floor approximately 10 inches high. As such, we need to do certain things to mitigate that. We're here tonight to ask for permission to elevate the house And I understand there's a whole bunch of stipulations from the state in order to do that. And there are requirements to apply for FEMA grants to help us in that respect. FEMA flood insurance does nothing for mitigation. They pay to replace your damaged structure, and they will continue to charge you premiums, and they won't, and they'll invest in mitigation, but you have to go through certain grant processes to do that. And in order to even apply for grants, we need building permits in order. We need a signed contract with the elevation company, the company that will lift the house up. And before they'll even accept an application, in order to apply for state grants, we need permission from the town to elevate the house. I understand there are other hoops, as they say, to jump through, and I'm still confused by the requirements of John Broker Campbell. He's looking for material receipts. We don't have receipts because we're still getting estimates. He's looking for labor receipts. We don't have receipts because we're still getting estimates. We need a structural engineer, but before we spend money to get a structural engineer and get an elevation certificate, we want to make sure that we can do what we're asking to do. So we are here before you asking for that permission.
All that, what he's saying makes sense, but.
So, and yeah, it's, you know, I can show you pretty pictures of elevations and exterior and site plans and whatnot, but until we get the permission, you know, do we go 5 feet and then the base flood elevation changes in 6 months when they finish compiling all the data from this flood? Do we go 10 feet? All this is based on numbers and what we can afford to do as far as getting grants, what we can afford to do as far as getting another mortgage or an SBA loan or whatever. So it's all about numbers, but the bottom line is we need permission to do it. And when the time comes, we'll certainly apply for the requisite permits and provide all the pretty details at that time.
Okay, so I think probably the biggest thing in regards to is that John's going to look for his professional engineering report from his site that shows site plan, base flood elevation, first floor elevation, electrical and mechanical. From my discussion with John, it sounded like the receipts was that if you had already made the repairs. Okay. But we can try to have you work with the planning and zoning office.
Yeah, and I'll certainly, I've reached out to him a couple of times. I'm sorry to interrupt you, George.
No, go ahead.
I've reached out to him a couple of times and, you know, I'm sure he's swamped. And again, yeah. Again, we'll certainly get all the proper permits when that time comes, but we need permission to do that. And then, and yeah, I'll figure out what I need to do from John, but this board, we need permission from this board as well, so.
And our hands are sort of tied when it comes to the flood hazard review portion in regards to what John is going to say. And I know that sounds kind of like the broken record of the evening that I've stated. But the biggest thing is that if his variables change, he may apply something that we do not, you know, that we don't know that he's going to come up with.
George? Estimates will do along the way, but eventually, like the rest of the places, you will have to show proof that you've used all that. Estimates work along the way to work in tandem with John Broker Campbell.
And I understand some of this is relevant to Ludlow being FEMA certified to receive certain monies in the future for, you know, cleanup and mitigation as well. So I get that.
That is correct, the NFIP program.
Right.
And the town will not issue a permit that potentially jeopardizes the entire town's belonging to that program.
Correct.
Hence why we will not issue a permit until John Broker and, you know, A&R issues that letter of recommendation.
I guess, again, my concern is we do all this work, we pay a whole bunch of money for site plan and structural engineer to check on things, and then the state says, nah, you can't do that. So I will reach out to John and figure out where we go from here. And I guess we'll be back next month to continue the discussion.
Does the board have any questions in regards? And I know your wife was sworn in. Do you have any comments or anyone else that was sworn in? Okay. Okay. I entertain a motion to recess until October.
Make a motion to recess till October.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Okay. We're going to open the next hearing for 31 Route 103 LLC. Rose is going to start us off.
Okay, this is application 89-226-CU. Amendment number 4 and 360-12- flood hazard review number 2. This is applicant 31 Route 103 LLC. This is for a cooler slab for plus a new outside deck area for seating for, I believe it was 50 people, 2 floors, and the property is entirely within the floodway. This was posted in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin boards, the town website on September 6th, the Vermont Journal on September 6th, and abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. We have the ambulance, fire, and police report, and we have you must have a letter from Tim McNamara, the environmental enforcement letter, which came in. And I believe Troy's here.
Okay. All those who are here to speak, including the applicant, on behalf of the applicant or other interested parties, please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Repeat after you?
Yep. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Okay. Tell us about your project.
We're looking to add a second floor deck to Darcy's on the left side of the building. And a closed deck to try to get more seating. Obviously, Sam's is not going to open. That's a wrap. There's going to be less availability in town for restaurants, and we're looking to expand it.
So we got a couple concerns. One is that we have a damage estimate report here. That showed you at 93% damaged.
That's from who?
That was done by the town, a contractor for the town. Per the FEMA regs, all buildings had to be inspected.
Okay, well, that's completely inaccurate beyond anything I've ever heard. I've never seen that report. I've actually had the state fire marshal reverse his report because he had structural damage, and there is no structural damage.
Okay. Well, it's not our prerogative to go against. You can fight that substantial damage estimate through those proper channels.
Okay.
But as of right now, we're currently at showing you 93% damage, which would put you in the substantially damaged category for the building, which would apply new regulations from the flood hazard.
Is there any reason why I wouldn't be provided that report prior to this? Or I didn't meet anybody or review anything with anybody. So obviously that report is completely wrong. They have no idea what they're doing, honestly. Be straight up.
So
They have
Ted
no
Reeves
clue what they're doing.
he reviewed the property.
Yep. I know you guys went around and did all the properties.
Yes. So to Troy's credit, that's true. He may not have been made aware of this.
You may not have been made aware of it.
And this particular property.
On this particular property.
I agree with Sam's, if you want to say that for Sam's, but certainly not Darcy's. And that's why we had the fire marshal take the red sticker off and reverse his report.
I just have to go off what I'm provided, and that's currently the beginning issue.
Okay. Can you guys provide me that report?
Yes, we can.
That'd be great.
Ted is here.
I'll get in touch with him.
Oh, there we go. We do have Ted as well.
Hey, there he is.
Ted, any chance you can make a comment on this? Since you were the one that did
I went out and I visited the property and, took photographs and then entered the data that we're required to put into the database. But, we can certainly give Troy a copy. Jared has a copy of the report in his office and get the report out to him so you can review it.
Okay. Perfect. So, some other concerns that we had that were brought forth was a email that was sent to us by Tim McNamara, Environmental Enforcement Officer, and in regards to a discussion he had with you in regards to some fill that was put in back there.
Yes.
He's familiar with his comments that he's made that you'll have to do before the issue of any permits?
We had a conversation, we met on site, but I didn't get anything in writing. You could forward me that, that'd be great too.
Sure, definitely we can do that. Just for on the record.
In writing.
He makes some comments that fill will have to be removed. He may also require a wetland permit from Rebecca as well.
Yeah, I spoke to him about it.
Okay. Is that it? And if you voluntarily decline to remove the fill, the matter will come back to him. We can get you a copy of that as well. So the another concern that was raised was that the deck appeared to only have one method of entrance and egress.
I believe it has two. I believe it has an outside and an inside.
Okay.
You're referring to the upper deck, George?
Yes.
Okay.
Is one of them inside?
Yeah, when you're familiar with Darcy's, it's right in the bar area, would be inside staircase going up to the second floor, and then there would be one on the exterior if it was necessary.
Also, so on your engineering reports, there was nothing in regards to base flood elevation, first floor elevation. In regards to those are that John Broker Campbell will need. Are you familiar with that process?
No, but after listening to the last bunch of people, yeah.
Okay.
I kind of figured that was coming after listening to that.
Yeah, so the same things apply. I'll read the list for on the record. In order to obtain a letter of comment from John Broker Campbell, following items are required: professional engineering report, including site plan showing base flood elevation, first floor elevation, electrical and mechanical location and elevation, receipts, damage costs, material estimate receipts, improvement cost receipts, labor cost receipts. And as previously discussed, estimates work, and then you'll be expected to provide proof that you followed the FEMA guidelines for approved materials. Okay. Did the board have any other questions, comments before we continue?
So again, estimates will do. If you don't have all the receipts up front, as long as you show at least two sources of estimates,
okay,
that would be acceptable.
All right. Okay. Do you have anything to say before we open up? There was a bunch of people who raised some hands. Okay.
No,
open it up to public comment. We'll probably come back around to you. Thanks, Troy.
Sounds like it's gonna be.
And those who were sworn in who had public comments. Okay, here's the one. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we abut the property of Mr.
You just
Darcy's.
state your name first.
Chris Kelly.
Thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
And we abut the property. Went down there today for a little while and took a look around. We did have the property surveyed November 25th. It was submitted with the town. Found a few of our markers that were not there, whether they got moved by the flood or other ways, but they weren't there. So we went over where the markers were, where dumping was on our land, where dumping was on Troy's land, where it was in the floodway. And we have dumping, illegal dumping on our land, on Troy's own land. So we are definitely not in favor of approving the permit for application for him to expand. Another concern of ours, parking. Right now, he is parked on our lot, which is behind Coda and Coda, or in between Darcy's and Coda and Coda, to my knowledge, without permission. I counted about 13 to 15 parking spots there today. Just doing the math, if you're adding 50 more people, I don't know where he's going to park, because I know parking on our land this winter is not going to be an option. That's why we had it surveyed. We entered it with the town, spent the money to know where our boundaries are. So that's a big concern of ours, the dumping of dirt, trimming our trees, just using our property without us knowing. Today is the first day that I did meet Troy. I had no idea. I've never met him before. Obviously, I know who he is, what he's done for the town, his building, his restaurants, so forth, golf course. So it's just interesting that you would use a person's property, one, without knowing him, and two, without even introducing yourself. I am not the only owner. My brother is a quarter share, and we have two other ladies. To Troy's benefit, he did say that he had spoke with my brother through an alternative, one of his partners, just for the record. Neither here nor there. Dumping on our land doesn't fly. In the floodway doesn't fly. So we're here to oppose his permit.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments?
I think that'll do it.
Okay. So is there anyone else that had been sworn in that wanted to make a public comment? Okay. Troy, do you have any response to that?
Sure. If beautifying is a problem, guilty as charged. We did have a conversation. I had it through Frank, who's the real estate dealer who put the transaction together. Mark Williams, prior to me, had used that property. Did I beautify the property? Yes. I put topsoil, I seeded, I leveled it. I've used it as parking. Frank had a conversation with his brother, and that's the route I went. I've never met him, like he said, in my life, and I've only met Larry once, and that transaction went through Frank. We had understanding. I've snowplowed it for the last year. I've mowed it. I've cleaned it. Yes, did I trim the trees? Yes, did I clean the garbage? Yes. So if I'm guilty of beautifying the property, guilty as charged.
Board have any questions, comments?
On these stairways on the upstairs thing, are they side by side, only one's inside and one's outside?
They're not side by side. One's by the bar inside, and the other one would be on the outside.
Because I thought the bar was over here.
Let's see. This is going to be the floor. See this? Yeah. This is the door now. This is kind of where the takeout window used to be. This is the door.
Okay,
Come
okay.
up the deck.
All right.
Just looking at a different angle. So it's not walking out. You have to have a platform.
Yeah.
Set up. So you're walking out the door.
Okay.
If it's necessary.
All right, thank you.
So in relation to the other question in regards to parking, I wanted to increase the footprint and bring in more seats. So what's the plan to address the parking issue by?
We're increasing seats, but we're not really, we have to use what's there as capacity. So the first floor was used. The second floor wasn't really used. It was used more of a staging area when you come in, and then the deck. But I would have to add more parking, which is part of the whole
scenario that you talked about before, where we had the dirt on the backside, so we gained some parking there. I guess I have to take out some filling ones, but it's not a lot. And that'll get worked out.
Okay. So you're not increasing your total seat count is what you're saying?
We are increasing our seat count, yeah.
Okay. So have you applied for an increased allocation in regards to sewer, water?
I got the letters, I haven't applied, but I got the letters that they don't have a problem with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Ambulance, fire, utilities, and
So we'll need those permits as well that you've paid for your increased allocation.
yeah.
Just kind of add that to your to-do list. Does the board have any other questions?
So on the one sheet A2, it says existing 50 occupants on patio relocated to deck.
Yeah.
So so that's where I'm confused with.
The patio basically becomes parking again, that's part of the occupancy that was from COVID. So that patio is going to just be abandoned and parking again.
Okay.
Just that same size, we all from that basically. Level now, so, level with the inside process. So on the ground outside, it's level.
Okay. So with a new parking plan, we're going to need a new parking. We're going to need to see a parking. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Any other comments from you or anyone from the public? Okay. I take it on for a motion to recess until October.
Make a motion to recess the hearing until October.
Do we have a second?
I will second that motion.
Okay, all those discussion? All those in favor, say aye. 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 Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay. Questions to the board? How's everyone doing?
That's everybody wants.
Well, because we originally, as part of this, we did have a board member break. You guys, we've currently been going for hour and 15. What do you guys think?
Let's just do this.
Okay, I'm good. Okay. So, sounds good. Okay, we're on to the next one. And they're going to be Jewel Brook LLC. Rose, you want to get us started?
Yep. This is application number 300-07-CU, amendment number 7. This is SUB 23-007, amendment number 1, and application number 458-17, Act 250, amendment number 3. This is Jewel Brook LLC. The project is for 22 residential units with 2 bedrooms each in 4 separate buildings with 44 parking spaces and final subdivision approval. This was posted in the town clerk's office, the town hall bulletin board, and the town website on September 6th, the Vermont Journal on September 6th, and abutting property owners were notified on September 6th. And I do believe that Attorney Slayson is already at the front microphone to represent Jewel Brook LLC.
Okay, those who are here to speak on behalf of the applicant or interested people who would like to speak on behalf of this hearing, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. I do. You want to start us off and tell us about your project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Rose. Good to see you remotely. You've heard a lot of sad stories tonight, and I feel badly for many of the folks here tonight. We're here in a little bit different vein. We're actually proposing some new construction in town, so we're pleased to present the Jewel Brook project to you tonight. Can you folks all see that main site plan that I'll be referring to? Do you want that little photo? And you also have that in the text. There you go. Perfect. So your zoning administrator's office is already giving you our packet of materials, so that way you can follow along with me. I have the project summary, one-page sheet, which has the correct information, square footage, lot size, and the like. As you may know, we submitted a supplemental correction in, I think it was in July, but this yellow sheet tonight, consider it a piece of evidence. You can mark it as one of your exhibits to include in the packet that you have. And we can use that as we kind of follow along in terms of the project. So as Rose said earlier, you folks granted a preliminary subdivision approval. Your decision came out on January 9. And at that time, we had the 4 lots. We had submitted building proposals, but the board deferred to approve or review buildings because we didn't have all the final elevations, the floor plans and such, which of course have now been provided. Tonight, because you're an on-the-record town, the record in this hearing includes all the exhibits on your internal Exhibit 6. So you don't have to look at that right now, but your Exhibit 6 lists everything that we could be talking about tonight, and I won't go through all of them, I promise.
Okay.
All right. I'm pleased to have with me tonight the developer of this lovely project, Salvatore Maritoli. He's right here and can answer any questions that you may have. And our lead engineer, Serenity Wolf of Stevens and Associates. And Serenity can point out things on the site plan if she wishes while I set the table a little bit in terms of our project. So again, we have 4 lots on a tract of 1.98 acres, 22 units, and it's the Ludlow Village Residential Commercial District, in which case the multi-unit buildings are a conditional use. So tonight we're seeking approval for your conditional use. We're seeking site plan approval, which is a part of your conditional use review. Final subdivision approval for the project that you see in front of you, and then the local Act 250 approval. Now, in your handout, the applicant, through our office, addressed every one of the criteria by criterion. As I say, I will not go all through those in detail, but I will answer questions as they may arise. The project is 2-story, or actually 1.5 story. The first floor units are called the Woodstock units. They're 1,060 square feet. The second floor are called the Weston units, and they have a loft. They're a little larger, 1,590 square feet. And as Rose said, each of the units has 2 bedrooms, so 22 times 2 is your 44 bedroom total. The project has 2 main access points. Serenity's pointing to one, and the access point there to one parking area, and then the access point to the other parking areas. So there's 2 parking areas that serve the 4 buildings. On lot 1 is 6 units. Lot 2, 6 units. Lot 3, 6 units. And lot 4, 4 units. There is an emergency access off Route 100, and that will include pavers. Chief Kalenda has reviewed the design. He met with Mr. Maritoli. He met with the project engineer. I do not know if he's had time to get you his letter of support, but both Serenity and Sal can reaffirm that he was pleased with the design and thought that it showed a far improved use of the property over the previous proposals. And just to digress for a minute, as you may know, this was the site of the old mill building. It was a contaminated site. Mr. Maritoli, at his expense years ago, purchased it and rehabilitated it. It went through the contamination of remediation of contaminated properties rule with his engineer, and that's how the site has been remediated. Then he obtained approval some years ago for a 38-unit condominium, and then more recently, a 72-unit hotel, in which he still has an Act 250 permit approving that. But the town, at the last time he came in for 72-unit hotel, denied it because they were concerned about access from the hotel at downtown, and there was proposal to use the bridge and possibly create a pedestrian way. And the DRB at that time were not real fond of that and denied it and recommended that he do either a different pedestrian way or come back with a redesigned project. Well, he went to see Stevens Engineering in our office, and this is the redesigned project. So now it's a substantially scaled down residential community, 22 units, nice spacing between the buildings, some nice landscaping. There will be landscaping along Route 100, and then selected landscaping in the interior around the buildings. And Sal's inspiration for this were the Bavarian and the Austrian types of villages that he's been so fond of. So he's designed this to have a very attractive courtyard between those three buildings facing 100. And that's his vision. And I think he's done a nice job laying that out. The parking, we'll talk about that just briefly. There are two parking areas that have the 44 spaces required by your zoning bylaws. And well, I believe, the bylaws at section 530.1, if you wish to refer to it, but it's 2 spaces per residential unit. Now, as you may be aware, and again, I digress a bit, but it's important to you folks as you start reviewing future projects to build, as opposed to rehabilitation of flood damage. The legislature just passed S100, which you may know about, which talks about the types of uses and greater densification of downtown areas that are connected to village water and sewer. So the new law that's in effect now says to towns, if your downtown area, if your zoning district, if the buildings there are connected to water and sewer, you may not require more than 1 space per unit parking. However, under certain exceptions, if you don't have any public parking adjacent or within, I think it's half a mile or something of that nature of the project, you may require 1.5 spaces. So I alert you to that under the law now as written, we have a lot more parking that state law requires. We don't have any reason to not provide that at this point. But if, in the discretion of the DRB at some point, you feel that a lesser parking or more green space is desired, there's flexibility in this design to accommodate that, right? As an attorney to a number of towns, I've had to go through and prepare a summary for a number of my municipal clients, and we're presently modifying a lot of our zoning and parking regulations to bring them into conformance with S100. Your town attorney undoubtedly is aware of that, and you folks can look, for that guidance. We had a traffic study commission. Traffic studies are not required unless there's more than 75 peak hour trips. And this was negligible. It was nowhere near the 75, but we still wanted to do an analysis because it's in your downtown residential area. So your traffic study provided in its Exhibit 9 in your packet. On a weekday, as you folks know, they have design hours and peak hours. So the calculation of peak hour on your weekday morning, 11 additional trips. Peak hour evening is 13 additional trips. So it's well below the 75 required for any kind of a traffic study. They did measurement of the stopping sight distances, the sight lines, as we say, from Route 100. And those are far in excess of the AASHTO standards, the American Association of Highway Traffic Engineers standards. And so in Exhibit 9, all of that data is provided for you. And in calculating the trips, they used a very conservative value for single-family home rather than a recreational home. Recreational home values in the AASHTO manual are much lower. And I told the engineer, be as conservative as you can, so they used the largest traffic generator possible, and that's why it's a very ultra-conservative analysis of your traffic impacts. The aesthetics of the area, the lighting has been designed to be downward directed, bollard lighting. Serenity may be able on this or another point out where some of those lights are. There's limited lighting, obviously, for safety purposes, ingress and egress to the buildings, and some lights out in the parking area. The buildings themselves are shingle and clapboard siding, again with the recreational and vacation type of aesthetic, where there's wood grain doors and shutters and architectural cornices to give it that vacation or more of that Bavarian type of look that Sal was inspired by. Your colors, you're going to have a dark gray asphalt roofing. Building number 1 is a Wedgwood blue. Building 2 is flagstone. Building 3 is a sterling gray. Building 4 is a heritage cream. Let me scan briefly, see if there's anything else I would like to just emphasize in my presentation before you have questions, I'm certain. And our ability to serve letters. Usually you folks know me well enough. When I show up at a hearing, I come armed with all my ability to serve letters. Well, the requests for these all went out on May 23rd, and I copied you with the requests. But you folks have had your handful here in town, and your department heads have been very busy. I do not know as I stand here which department heads have responded to you. I have not received any formal letters back to my office. So I can't tell you that I have, other than the earlier letters that we received in connection with the subdivision approval that you approved in January. Chief Billings, Foreman Tarbell, Stephanie Grover of your Emergency Medical Services, and Chief Glenda, they all rendered letters at that time finding satisfactory of the subdivision concept. So you'll want those letters, but I don't have those to offer to you tonight. I also reached out to your town manager, Manager McNamara, as to whether or not we needed any additional water or sewer allocation. His research led him to believe that we had already received the allocation for the 72-unit hotel, up to 80 bedrooms. He was going to check with the village trustees if we sent him the floor plans of the buildings, and we did. And so I don't know where that stands. Rose may know where that stands, but I don't know. I would suspect, I'd be very surprised if any additional water sewer allocations required. If in anything, we're giving back a lot with what was approved and allocated previously. The lots conform with your zoning district. Your density requirements are well within your zoning district at 2,500 square foot per unit. It's the lot coverage maximums cannot exceed 50%. You're well below those. And those summaries, if they're not on my, you see the density, the coverage is there, yes it is, on my handout, well below your 50%. Your side yard and rear yard setbacks meet your regulations. We're not seeking any waivers or variances, which is why I think you folks granted the earlier, subdivision lot approval. Building height maximum, I didn't mention that. As you folks know, you got 35 feet or 3 stories. The Jewelbrook building height to the peak is 32 feet 9 inches. If you use your formula where it's the average, the ridge, and the peak, it's far less. But what we did is you've got building elevations in your handouts, and it shows the peak 32 feet 9 inches. So the project is well within your building height requirements. Let me see if there's anything else under your specific specifications. Again, no project noise other than the construction. No activities on site vibration. Lighting is limited to the downward directed to be night sky compliant. No flammable liquid stored on site. There will be subsurface LP tanks for LP gas-fired baseboard hot water heating, correct? And then supplemented with mini splits. The site plan review, I think we've addressed everything. Circulation within the site, the parking, adequacy of landscaping along Route 100, the adequacy of exterior lighting is addressed. I'm jumping here, I'm on page 8 of the handout that we sent you. Local Act 250 review, whether the project would cause an unreasonable burden to provide educational services. It's not expected that Jewel Brook will generate any or very few school-age children, and we sent the letter to the superintendent to confirm that. It's a recreational residential planned community, so it's not expected that Jewel Brook owners with school-age children necessarily will be full-time residents. There should not be any burden on town of Ludlow to provide municipal governmental services. Again, your fire chief and your police chief have to confirm that, but Mr. Maritoli will be responsible for construction of all the buildings and the infrastructure in connection to town systems. And all your unit owners have to be members of the Jewel Brook Homeowners Association. They have responsibility for the maintenance and repair of your parking areas, your access drives, snow plowing, sanding, and the like. So there should not be any reason where the town will have to expend any money maintaining the internal function of the site. It's just rather that you provide access to your municipal, your police and your emergency services if such a need should arise. It will generate substantial tax dollars both under the state formula and for your local. And it's in conformance with your municipal development plan because it's in the village mixed use area, and it's adjacent mixed uses, extension of the traditional village center. And that's exactly what this is. Your building footprints are outlined, and that's consistent with the site plans you have in front of you. I'm looking at subdivision review regulations. Again, it asks many of the same things. The character of the area, it's compatible with the visual aesthetics, the activities and development of the surrounding area. It conforms to the town plan and the zoning regulations. The final subdivision plat will conform with your plat requirements. It'll have monuments and lot corner markers. We showed the building envelopes, landscaping and screening. There is no subsequent development plan. This is the extent of the development. There are no natural resources on the site. We've kept the construction away from flood plain. So there'll be no encroachments in your floodplain. It does not include farmland, no slopes in excess of 25%. We've kept some open spaces between the building, but nothing being dedicated to the town per se. It's too small a site with 1.9 acres. Again, it asks whether there'd be an undue burden on community services. We've explained why not. Will there be adequate access and safe traffic access? We believe there is based on the traffic study. Water supply is town water. Wastewater is the Ludlow Village water system, for which we've already received allocation. There's a utilities sheet. It's called sheet C5 if you need to confirm where any of the sewer or water connections run to the project. And I just invite you to look at the nice-looking building design, the elevations and the architectural. I think you may share my opinion, and that's in your building exhibits. That's Exhibit A. The building profiles and the design, I think, look very tasteful. Far more tasteful and residential than many kind of commercial projects that I've been involved with. This is a very tasteful residential. Sal, I think you're achieving your look with the nice village setting look. So with that, Serenity, as engineer, what have I missed? Mr. Maritoli, anything you wish to add to the board's consideration? I know there's a lady with her hand up back here,
George,
so.
Andrea Sanford.
Go ahead.
All major points that want to be about people that live on the street. And the residential component of this project, how does that not go changes, the landscape changes our life dramatically. I make a buzzword density, I get it, the receding housing. These are only, they're probably turning into Airbnb. And you say that 1 or 2 cars per, I know about Airbnbs, let's take care of them. And then there's like people come and there's like 6 cars for the unit because they pack them in and there's excessive traffic. And then they end up parking in my yard because I'm so far away. And it just creates a different way of life than there is in 20 years. So I'm kind of understanding that we need more housing. One of the main things that I'm concerned about is a buffer on 20 the road, so that people aren't looking directly into my dining room, right there. There's only a strip of land between that and my living room. So that there be thought of the people that live around it, that try to make it so that we can still have the kind of life that we can enjoy the residential part. And I am concerned about the condos being turned into Airbnbs. I understand that that's a good way to offset costs, but it does create additional people and traffic and parking issues. And I'm just
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Can I respond briefly?
Yeah, if you have a response.
As adjoining landowners, I should have mentioned that in my direct comments, and I apologize for not doing so. Any of you folks here that are adjoiners. But it's our opinion, respectfully, that it has been designed with adjoiners in mind. And that's why additional landscaping, that's why the buildings were moved to the interior. You're not finding them really close to Parker Avenue. That's why downward directed lighting. So there were a lot of aspects of the project that we really think took into account the neighborhood. And with all due respect, it was a blighted mill full of contaminants and was approved as a 72-unit hotel, and now it's going to be a lovely residential neighborhood. And it will be different maybe than vacant land, but it seems to be really consistent with what Ludlow zoning and the town plan desires for our downtown area. And because of that, there's always change that come when somebody builds something next to an adjoining landowner, and I fully appreciate that. But it conforms in all respects with what the town has asked to be done in that area. And if there's anything specific with respect to your property that you think could help lessen any impacts that you think might occur, Mr. Maritoli is a pretty responsible guy, and I'm sure you can talk with him about that.
You did say that it's like downtown. It's really not downtown. Downtown.
Well, I suppose that's true. You're still, from zoning, you're still a residential commercial village. And it's connected to town water and sewer. So the way the state of Vermont looks at it in terms of its new policy about downtown areas, that is a downtown village area that the state is encouraging to be connected to water and sewer and densely developed to remove the impacts of other outlying areas. So that seems to be the state kind of policy, and it's consistent with your own town. But in these buildings, there's a lot of space, and it seems to be pretty well sited. On the VRBO or some of the Airbnb, I can't address that. I don't know to what extent that would be a potential issue. But since we attributed the highest traffic count possible to the AASHTO manual rather than a recreational unit, we've tried to take into account that we're still well below all the traffic thresholds. So.
That site would actually accommodate, we had a project approved there, a residential project that was over 30 initially. And even this project, one of the earlier iterations was 3-story, which it would accommodate. And we were at 48 units. And I chose to stay with that. In keeping with the neighborhood and so on, we brought it down to 2-story buildings instead of 3. I just kind of like having 1-story buildings.
And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And I think the students did a pretty nice job. They were instructed to make sure that we had adequate buffer on all 3 sides, so that that's 3 neighbors. I think they've done a reasonably good job.
So I got, so we'll give you one more public.
He's really trying to hear this.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear what you're saying, Scott.
We should have people step up to the mic.
Yeah.
Trying to listen to this conversation.
We need everybody to step up.
I don't think any of them can hear it, so we really need to use the mic.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, is that what? Yeah.
That's so, yeah.
I assume you folks heard me.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we heard you over the microphone though. So, this gentleman.
Sal.
Mr. Maritoli, yes,
he was not picked up on the microphone, so we
would you like to come and just repeat what you just told
comments.
this nice lady right here?
Yeah.
Sal Maritoli. I was addressing Mrs. Sanford's concern and had mentioned that the project early on was actually approved as a residential project with 33 units and actually room for more. One of the earlier iterations of this project had 28 units in a 3-story buildings. And I chose to lower the density down to the 22 that you see and make these buildings 2-story. And part of that was in keeping with the residential neighborhood that surrounds this building. And I think we ended up with a more attractive and less dense and less concerns about numbers of people and cars and everything that goes with it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I've got some questions for you. So first one is, you mentioned in your packet a lot about the association and the responsibilities of the association, but we were not provided any documentation in regards to that.
That's correct. We haven't drafted that yet.
Okay, so we would like to see that, particularly in regards to the responsibilities of who is going to be responsible for plowing, lawn mowing, and et cetera.
Sure, what I can do is provide you with an excerpt of HOA regarding common utilities, sure.
Started down some other things. So on your, let's see, that's labeled EX3, So we did have some the serve letters, which I can read for the record, but depicted there's at least one, if not potentially multiple trees that intrude on that fire lane patio that we would like to see removed. I don't think having a tree right as you'd be able to drive in. I know this is potentially a mock-up of what you wanted to look at, but that was one of Pete Kalinda's things, was that he'd be able to pull his fire truck in there.
Yeah.
And the second was in regards to the structure at the end of the fire lane as you go toward building B3. It was, yeah, what was that?
Pergola.
Yeah, so what's a pergola?
What is it?
Pergola.
Good evening, Serenity Wolf from Stevens and Associates. A pergola is typically a wooden structure that is used to grow plants and provide shade. So there would be sort of probably posts on the side, and think of like a trellis perhaps across the top.
So just to kind of tie in with that, with the ties in with the fire letter. I know you said you hadn't received a copy yet. So one of them was that you will require a permit from the Division of Fire and Safety. The emergency vehicle access off Route 100 will be wide enough to allow fire apparatus to turn into the patio area with one swing. No permanent fixtures or structures will be allowed in the patio area. The patio will be constructed to support up to a 68,000-pound fire truck. Snow removal is required for the patio and emergency access entrance. NFPA 13 sprinkler system required for all buildings, fire alarm system and carbon monoxide detectors as required for the Division of Fire and Safety. Permit submission from the drawing of June 14th, 2023 shows a fire setting, fire hydrant setting detail on page C7. The utilities plan C5 did not show any hydrant locations. Hydrant locations must be discussed and approved by this department. Since this is a new commercial construction, a 35-cent per square foot fee is required for the town of Ludlow Fire Equipment Fund. We can definitely get you a copy of that. So question would definitely be we kind of touched a little bit about the concerns there and the trees, and I don't necessarily, I mean, a pergola sounds like a permanent fixture. I'm not trying to dissuade from your greening things up, just going off what he's saying. And also the patio to support a fire truck at a certain way. That sounds like a pretty stout patio.
Pavers will handle that fine. Any surprises, or I think you accommodated most of that in your design.
Okay, so the things that we would definitely need for would be the location of the fire hydrants. So that we'll need approval to bring those forth to him. You might already be working on those, I don't know. But we'll start with that one. Has the board got any questions, comments?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a state sewer permit is required as well, not just the town sewer allocation. No, not like a septic permit, but it's an allocation permit for sewer with the state. So maybe Rose can back.
Well, if that's the case, I'm not aware of it, having done this for 30 years, so maybe you can refer me to something tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we'll circle back on that.
Because the Ludlow Village trustees have complete control over their sewage capacity.
Okay.
And that's what we're dealing with.
I think that just came across.
I think they'd be surprised if the state was telling them they couldn't do it.
Okay. I think that just came across my desk today, so
All right.
I'll have to go over that again with you.
All right.
Okay.
So while we're on the discussion of sewer and water allocations, so we were provided through, I believe it's Brendan or maybe the planning office, the current, where you're currently at and what you had currently paid for. We currently have you on the books for your, what would be the brick building, which is the little historic site building, and the unit that's currently built. You were approved for your previous ones, but you had never paid per the receipt of the decision from the village trustees. We don't have a copy of that payment. So as it sits right now in the eyes of us, without proof of that, you don't have an allocation.
Okay, so it was allocated, but no payment was received,
Correct.
at least in your records.
So as it stated in that letter, the allocation fee, which for that particular allocation was $43,600, is due at the issuance of this letter. And that letter was, let's see, December 20th of 2006. And then there has since been some communications where they were referenced some additional fees that had potentially changed but had not been paid. So that needs to be addressed.
It sounds like it went to 2006, a long time before I came involved in this project. But Sal, if you want to address that, or do you have any different recollection, or?
No, it was an agreement that when we got through our Act 250 permit and the project was then permitted, we advanced the fees, and as it turned out, we never did build that hotel project, so the fees.
That guy can't hear you.
Yeah, so you've got to, sorry,
for the mic, please.
You got to speak into the mic so everyone can hear you. Sorry.
We have to do that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, when we were approved, we had our allocations, and then we requested through the town manager that those be suspended until we were actually ready under construction, because we had Act 250 to go through. We had all of our fire and safety permitting to do at the state. So they allowed us to suspend that payment. And as it turned out, that project didn't get built.
Okay, so as it currently sits, we,
Mr. Maritoli, you may want to just stand.
you may want to stay up there. We haven't been provided that the town has, or in the case of the village, sorry, has continued to be okay with that, and that allocation that you were previously approved at, and they're okay with you not paying the fees. We'd like to have some sort of letter from them that either you have a new allocation that matches the project that you're currently applying for,
right,
or that the old allocation and that they are okay with not taking payment now.
Right. Okay, sure, we will. Yeah, I would imagine the allocation will be reduced because the project has been reduced. So we will go back and make application for the 44 bedrooms and address it at that point.
Thank you. Any other board member comments before?
So I'm looking at the wall consultant group, the transportation engineer, and there's some recommendations for the site development team. There's a few bullet points here. Just want to see about how you're going to address those. The ensure proposed plantings do not block the intersection sites from Parker Avenue to southbound vehicles on Route 100. I mean, obviously, again, these drawings are just that, but there's obviously some trees that are right there close to that corner that might be obstructing some views that might need to be looked at.
So yes, this is a schematic design, and we'll need to refine the exact planting locations as we move into the next phase.
In addition, it says consider adding electrical vehicle charging stations with provisions for future expansion of the charging infrastructure.
Yes, I expect those also to be a requirement of Act 250.
Okay. Consider providing conveniently located outdoor bicycle parking racks.
We've discussed bicycle racks, and I believe the following recommendation is in regards to internal storage of bicycles and charging for bicycles. So Sal and I are working with his architect to determine where the best location for bicycle storage will be.
So we'll have plans that will include all those things in the next iteration, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Thank you.
So to kind of pair off that, when we're talking about electric charging, I know those are potential fire hazards. When you're discussing with Pete Kalinda in regards to the fire hydrant location, we would like to see his input on how he feels about those being stored inside because of the potential fire hazard and how those might be addressed. One question for you, Larry, was if you could discuss how you came to your lot coverage account of the percentage-wise. In regards to density.
Well, the lot coverage or density, the density is set forth in the zoning district at 2,500 square feet a unit. And every lot has well in excess of of the amount of square footage needed for the six times 2,500 is 15,000, or right? And each of the lots is a minimum of 20,000 square feet. So it meets the density. In terms of coverage, all we did, and you can check at Serenity, maybe our math was made an error, but we took the building footprint. We took the building footprint, calculated the square footage of the building footprint against the lot size, 20,500 square feet, and that's how you determine the coverage.
So,
so is there an error?
We were looking at also the amount of impervious material, including parking lots. You had mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because it's not impervious, it's pervious. Go ahead.
So I would like to speak to the impervious coverage on the site. So Sal is looking to do pervious hardscapes.
Okay.
For the parking and the vehicular access and the patio. The only impervious surfaces will be the buildings, the historic building that will remain, the dumpster pads, and the stairs and the ramps external to the building.
Okay. And is that part of the stuff you've already provided? Notice.
Yes, sir. That's outlined in the stormwater mitigation plan, which is, I believe, exhibit double digits. I don't know that number right off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Got a lot in the packet, so.
Yeah. There was a stormwater narrative, and that on my exhibit list, the stormwater management narrative is exhibit 13.
We just address go back to the parking just for a quick second here. So is it going to be assigned parking for each unit?
No.
So it's going to be open parking for
Yes.
those units?
There's another question from the audience.
Oh, sorry, public comment. Go ahead. Yep. We're gonna have you come up to the mic. Sorry, so everyone can hear.
You provided for the trash. You have dumpsters on site, or will it be picked up, or will that be addressed for all those units? Okay. So those trees that are in a row over in the far right, is that 100? So my house is right across from there. You're planting trees in a row to create a thing, and there'll be 2 dumpsters. Okay. Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, got just a couple cleanup items?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, in terms of full transparency, there may be 1 or 2 of our submittals that refer to a potential sidewalk area along Route 100. There will be no sidewalk. The DRB was not crazy about that because it goes nowhere. We don't have the space for it, and we're replacing that with the planting. So there's no sidewalk because there won't be.
So the copy that we were provided that shows the sidewalk is no longer?
That sidewalk does not exist.
Okay. We'd like to see that, definitely.
Take that off?
Yeah, let's see what the final draft's gonna look like.
Yeah, and with a couple of the other hydrant locations, things should point out, we can kind of probably, send you another one. The only other thing is, this is our first permit. Mr. Maritoli has done Act 250 in the past, and we wanted to get our local house in order before we went to Act 250. So we haven't submitted yet. So in terms of the commencement construction date, we're asking that the substantial commencement commence 2 years from the date of your approval. We'll go forward this fall with the Act 250. That should give us enough time to get started.
Is there any more public comments at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a bunch of statements on this. Actually, just to quote John Bohr at the subdivision hearing, any of the previous hearings, you can't reopen them. So we are starting a whole new situation here. as was stated by the board. So none of the allocations are going to carry over to the new application. So the water permit, sewer permit is not going to carry over. It's a brand new application. The attorney Slauson just stated that this was a commercial project, which would put it at 30% lot coverage. And just by looking at those proposed plans, it's not even close. Like, you can look at those and see that it's not even close to less than 30% on these plans. I would like to state that I've spoken with the Act 250. Sal will have to go through a new one, and I get that he just addressed that. And probably my last statement is that, you know, I've dealt with Sal as a contractor for him for a long time and as a neighbor to this project for upwards of 10 years. And to put it nicely, let's just say that the numbers don't always add up. And if you look at those drawings, the 22 by 9 foot parking spaces are almost the same length as the 38.5 foot building. So as we've seen Sal do before, maybe by mistake, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That building these plans don't add up. So if the parking spaces are 22 feet long and you superimpose those on the building, it's no way that adds up to 38.5 feet. So in my opinion, I believe again that we need to really check on that site plan to make sure everything's to scale. And then as well, during the last subdivision hearing, Sal was supposed to conduct a survey and have a Mylar posted to within 6 months, or the subdivision was null and void. And I would like to ask the DRB if that Mylar was submitted within 6 months.
I can answer that. It was not submitted within 6 months. We're not relying on the preliminary subdivision approval. We came in tonight to supplement what had been presented, and this is a final subdivision approval tonight with buildings and the lot lines, but we weren't relying on the preliminary.
So you just decided you didn't need to do that, or?
I decided that it wasn't essential to, since we knew we were coming back in with buildings and floor plans that you very much insisted on at the last hearing, I let the 6 months lapse, knowing that this time we would have everything that you asked for.
So
other comment
you're a lawyer, I'm not, but essentially if you were given a 6 months time frame to submit a Mylar, you have made this null and void.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to say that's fine. That may be the case. We're not relying on the preliminary approval.
The approval was based on the fact that you would have a Mylar submitted within 6 months.
Fair enough. That's true. Then the only other comment that I would address is on the 50% coverage. It's residential, not commercial.
You were the one who said commercial just 2 minutes ago.
If I did, I was mistaken. I don't recall saying anything about commercial, but if I did, I apologize.
I also do have another couple questions. Are these going to be long-term rentals, short-term rentals, Airbnbs, owner-operated? How's that going to work?
They're going to be owner-owned, and there's no limits on occupancy.
Does the board have any other questions? Okay. So in the packet, you had provided a land use permit from the state that had an expiration date. Is that have you reapplied for a new one, or what's the status of that?
What permit is that, Mr. Chair? Refresh my recollection.
Pull that up, sorry. I can show you this one. So land use permit was, this This might have been your Act 250 one.
I don't recall submitting any Act 250 material with my application.
Okay.
It might be in the zoning file, but I didn't submit any of that as a part of the application.
Okay, might have just gotten thrown in here.
Yeah, yeah, it's very possible. I think your zoning office might have been researching the prior permits.
Okay.
And there were prior DRB and prior Act 250 permits in place on this lot. Okay. The Act 250 permit for the 72-unit hotel is still in effect. And we have to go forward. And we have to go forward and amend that now to be consistent with whatever you folks may approve tonight.
The Act 250 has to be completely restarted as per Stephanie Giles, the head of the Act 250 office for our area. And she stated to me that until you even got town approval, you can't even file for that Act 250 permit.
Let's see here.
And then while I'm being annoying, I just have one more question. Will there be cooking and kitchens involved in these units?
I hope so. They're homes.
They're hotel rooms, but sure, call it what you like.
I stand by the representations I've made tonight, gentlemen.
Thank you. So just to go back to some letters of service I know you haven't received yet. Looking at Chief Billings' letter here, he states in regards to some certain signage that entrance and exiting for vehicles, also to have a camera system installed outside of the buildings. We'll make sure you get a copy of those too.
And again, just for the record, to our engineer, any objections in that regard?
And with our new site plan that you're going to provide us, can you just make sure that it is to scale for us? Thank you.
And again, a question to my engineer: are the sheets C1 through C8 submitted to this board, are they to scale? Are they accurate? And do they meet engineering and surveying standards?
I'm sorry, Stephanie, what did you say? Serenity.
Serenity Wolf, Stevens Engineering, there is a bar scale provided on the bottom of the engineering plans for your reference.
I just know we're doing, so you'd mentioned changes in comparison to the one that we had that you'd submitted that we'd like to see, particularly in regards to the walkway. You said that you've removed. I know the concern had been expressed about the trees along the road, and at least in the depiction I was given, the proximity to the road. So that was definitely something as well.
And obviously we'll remove the trees from the emergency access. So the updated site plan will take into account your comments tonight.
Okay, thank you. Board have any other comments? So question in regards to where your location of your LP tanks were going to be and the availability for trucks to service those.
Can you hear her, or do you want me to hold that up while she's at the microphone?
Can I point here to something and then I'll go to the
Yep, that sounds fine. Which, just for the record, which one are you on? C5. Okay.
One tank per lot, correct? If you want to elaborate.
So if you reference page C5, which is the utilities plan, there is one propane tank located on each lot. 3 of the tanks are located within the parking lot in order to provide access to delivery trucks. The final tank, which is on lot 1, is located adjacent to the courtyard, and I expect that they would need to fuel either in the courtyard or on Route 100. I think it'd be safer if it was in the courtyard.
Yeah, definitely would like due to the location of the turn there with 100 and the bridge, make sure that we can have it situated that they can use the courtyard to fill that. So we can keep some vehicles out of the road that aren't necessary.
You had talked about a, downward lighting. On which one of these sheets do I see that?
So on C5, again, that's the utilities plan, depictions of the bollard and the site lighting, which will be pole-mounted lights around the parking lot, are available. So the pole-mounted lights are sort of a square with a little line and a smaller square, and the bollards they look like little suns. So there's like a circle with little lines around it. The site plan does not depict the location of building-mounted lighting.
They don't depict what? Locations of what?
Building-mounted lighting.
And are those all going to be down shielded lighting? Just to.
Yes, everything will be downcast, fully shielded, night sky compliant lighting as stated in the lighting narrative.
The lighting plan narrative is Exhibit 10. So if you refer to Exhibit 10 and then sheet C5, that would answer most of the questions.
Thank you.
So does that show where the fire hydrants are going to be?
No, sir, a hydrant location has not been finalized with the fire chief.
Okay. Thank you.
How tall are your pole mounted lights going to be?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
They're usually 15. Because of the proximity to the buildings, we could consider less if the board had a recommendation or a stipulation.
Our biggest concern without any outside lighting is the proximity to the butters that already exist there. And so that's where pretty much all lighting now is that down shield protected lighting, there we go. And that we want to make sure that it's not overtly shining in someone's window, illuminating areas that aren't needed for safety. So one question in regards to the stormwater runoff, it talked about some catch basins and such for those. Do you have any comments on that? A little bit of explanation.
Sure. So in Exhibit 13, we discussed the stormwater management plan, and the most important piece is that the parking and vehicular access and the pedestrian access will be pervious. That pervious will be designed to the Vermont Stormwater Management Manual, which means that it will capture and infiltrate the 1-year 24-hour storm. Anything that surpasses that and becomes overland flow will be capped by the catch basins and conveyed to the existing outlet.
Okay. And can you, just for the record, point to where those catch basins are? And those will connect to the existing system, you said?
Yes, there are also smaller structures called area drains that will also connect to that system.
And there's nothing in from the, have you put anything to the fire marshal yet? Any plans yet?
No.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the board?
From Rose.
Rose, okay, Rose, go ahead.
I was just, I had a couple of questions, just simple ones, like what are the size of the parking spaces and the handicap spaces?
9 by 22 is the standard, and then the handicap spaces, I believe, are the same size with additional aisles, access aisles provided adjacent to them. I believe one access aisle is 5 foot and another is 8.
So they're 9 by 22 also, the handicap?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is the pavers that you're laying in the landscaping area, are you keeping the concrete down and then laying the pavers over that?
No, that's not consistent with the requirements with the Vermont Stormwater Manual. So there will be a crushed stone reservoir underneath the pavers. All existing concrete on the site will need to be, like the existing concrete walls would need to be removed. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I was interested in that. So with the, there's a little drawing here, the Vermont Village conceptual sketch. It doesn't, I'm not really sure where that would be because I mean, I think that's just, it says the Sullivan. Is that just to kind of show us what it could look like, or is that something that would be there?
That's a conceptual idea, is not consistent with the plan set, completely consistent with the plan set in front of you.
Okay.
Rose, I put that in the packet. That was part of Sal's inspiration for the design when it was submitted to, Stevens and others to lay out the buildings. And then if you recall, in the first application, we submitted some Bavarian and Austrian types of village settings. So again, this is where Sal gets his inspiration, and as a tribute to Sal, I included that in the packet.
Okay. Larry, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
I was just wondering, would tonight being the final for this, well, supposed to be the final for the subdivision, did you bring the Mylar tonight to be signed by the chairman and the 2 paper copies and the stuff to go with that?
No, we don't have the final subdivision tonight. We wanted to hear the comments from the board. What we're asking for is final subdivision approval tonight. We will return with the final subdivision plat incorporating your comments.
Do they have, did anything change on the plat from the?
No, except now we have the buildings. Of course, remember the last time we were.
I wasn't here.
We were not in. Okay, well, the last time we were not encouraged. Some of the land adjoiners raised objection to having consideration of the building. So we discussed the lots and the lot lines and agreed to come back with detailed buildings on the lots, all infrastructure in a complete, with all details. And so that's why we're back tonight with it. But no, we don't. We will be back to you for final site plan sign off, whether or not you need another hearing or whether or not they will be consistent with your sheets, your EX3, the color one, and your sheet C1 through C8. everything will be consistent with that, but we will have a registered land surveyed. I believe it will be DiBernardo Associates. They're going to provide a final survey plan for you with all monuments.
Okay. I know that you and I talked about the monuments being laid down on the property. On these drawings that we have now, I have not been able to get them to scale. So I also had a contractor look at them, and he was not able to get them to, measure out to scale. So I'm not sure why. Maybe when they shrink down, they do that. I'm not sure, but maybe if we could get larger maps to look at, it would be better to, maybe try to get them to scale. But
I thought a full size, Rose, I apologize for interrupting. I thought a full size plan set had been delivered to the zoning office.
I believe we have that, but we can't really make 7 copies of full-size architectural ease.
No, we know that, but that's why we submitted a full-size plan set, because then you can scale that out. See, when you work off these kinds of drawings and you try to scale them out, they're tricky. That's why you've got a full-size plan set. So, Rose, I think there is one. We can provide you with an extra set, but I think there's one in the office.
Okay, that's my bad. I didn't know that. So we can try that and look at that, and maybe the board members can come in and take a look at that, like the chairman and stuff like that. But so maybe that will help, just so we can scale it and make sure that it is all fitting on the property the right way, and that's all we want. So.
No, I appreciate that. No, and we'll be back with the surveyed final plat with the legend for signing by the chair, as we usually do. But no, I don't have that this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Georgie? I think Steve has a question.
Oh, sorry. Got a question?
Again, I'm not an attorney.
Sorry, Rose is on full screen. Sorry, I missed your hand there. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I'm not an attorney like Mr. Slauson, but you had 6 months, which was a contingency from the board you're in front of now, to submit a Mylar, or it was null and void the subdivision. So in my opinion, again, not a lawyer, but you missed it by about 3 months and you still haven't done it. So that subdivision is null and void and should require another DRB hearing, in my opinion.
Thank you for your comments.
George, Andrew Sanford.
Oh, sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
In a perfect world, everybody would own their condo and they would come up and use it. But if they turn into Airbnbs, I'm just really concerned about the peak weeks like Christmas and New Year's and the holidays, when the density of the place might be, it's one of the worst curves in the town, that strip of 100, and the extra traffic from them being rented out and the extra volume of cars. In a snowstorm, I just envision that, it could be a traffic problem there at certain times of the year if they become Airbnbs.
Thank you for your comment.
At the risk of being redundant, the traffic study was based on full occupancy of the units as single-family homes, and there's no question that in Ludlow during Christmas and Easter week, there will be a lot of traffic in town, and that this complex will probably be filled, and we acknowledge that, but we believe it's been designed appropriately.
Thank you for your answer. Is there any more public comments? Does the board have any more comments?
No.
Okay. Do you have your list of to-dos for us?
Well, knowing Rose and getting to know Jared, I suspect that somebody will send me a list.
Okay.
And we will take care of that. If there's nothing further, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, board members.
I'll entertain a motion to recess till October.
I'll make a motion, we recess till October.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, on to the next thing. We've got the minutes.
I have a couple.
Well, because that was our last meeting. You've had like 6 months off. Think about all that free time you've had.
That long.
Okay, so you get the
Corrections for the minutes. Page 2, number 22, unless someone has something for that.
I had, it says.
So John Neal was said? I'm sure he was, I don't know that he was sad.
He was sad.
Next one I have is page 4. I'm not sure if anybody else has anything for that.
Nope, go ahead.
Page 4, number 12.
Okay.
Nick Ratzer said he can provide one saying when to the exercise the system. I was just confused. So I think it's when to, like, get rid of the.
Oh, George Tucker said he would like to see the documents. Nick Ratzer said he can provide one, comma, saying
when to exercise
the system and when to purge it.
Okay.
Purge it. So it's just, it's.
Just it's fine.
Comma. A document saying, okay, I'll try to reword that.
Thank you.
Any other corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Discussion? None. Although, And last thing under other business, potential for extra DRB meetings in the future.
George, I absolutely cannot do 2 meetings in 1 week.
Okay, so
that includes having a DRB meeting on the same week as a select board meeting.
Okay. So currently, as it sits, I thought tonight went pretty well with our adjusted time. I don't see, my personal feeling is I don't see a need for us to add an extra meeting at this time. We're more or less waiting on a lot of documentation. That's kind of, I don't know what you guys have a feeling about. As it currently sits, I'll pull it up here. 1 second. We were October 23rd. That's the DRB meeting. So if everyone's okay, we would tentatively set the same timeline as we had today.
Now, was there a public hearing at which you changed the time, since when you had your reorg meeting, you said DRB times are 6 o'clock?
Yeah, and so we made that, we made a decision because we haven't had a DRB in months, and we made a public, we made those postings.
But there wasn't a hearing that where it was voted on.
No, it was, but that we're applicable to be able to do that with proper public posting. So is everyone okay with that, or what do you, maybe is that as we see, is 6 okay? What do you think? I know forecast potentially another 6 to 8 people for next month.
In addition to the ones that were.
Correct. So we've currently recessed, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 recessed hearings coming back next month.
Plus 8 more.
Plus 6 to 8 more is what the tentative plan is sitting at.
I'm okay starting at 5.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
Okay, sure.
Ooh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Scott?
Just an observation. Tonight, the name John Campbell came up multiple times, and no one seemed to know about him or got any feedback from him. So my question is, I mean, is it in their packet? Or is John Campbell just a very busy guy and doesn't get back to anybody?
So John Broker Campbell has been provided everyone's info. And to the best of my knowledge, that everyone who has come forth to the planning office is aware of the process, and most people have yet to submit the correct documents, in a general speaking.
That's correct.
Process. Was that Rose?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. But, John Broker Campbell's like a ghost.
And I'm not, and nor am I defending that his answers are heavily what is forth here. Without talking about any one particular hearing, that no matter, even if we were not flood related and you were a flood hazard review, it is standard practice that we would receive a letter from him, and that the required documentation has not changed for any of those.
Like I said, it was just an observation. Everybody seemed to have the same problem.
No, and I appreciate you bringing it up, and now it's on the record. And it's kind of hard at the DRB level to make a statement that's broadcast. I read the same statement for every hearing to be on the record for that particular hearing.
Is there an alternate example of people came in now? There has to be choices of.
He's the one who covers this area.
So that's a town thing, or is that a state thing?
That's a state level thing. For any of those things, talk to the planning office and they will assist you with that.
Okay.
Any other business? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to close the hearing. Thank you.
And a second? I will second that motion. Okay, all those in favor, discussion? No. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?